Hey, this is Rick Shew from the Yeehaw and Yankee Show.
And this is Rayven from Broaxium.
We are the Star Wars trilogies.
Hi.
Hi. Well, this is cool. I'm glad that we're a part of this. I'm glad you're a part of this. And
Very excited.
I like this one-on-one thing. I was thrilled when we got paired up. And we're here to talk about how we got into Star Wars. And then we have a fun topic that I think is going to be an easy segue, which is how did the Phantom Menace age?
Not as well as us.
Not as well as us. Yay.
Since I came out the same year as Star Wars, I feel like that's my joke of choice.
No, it's fabulous. How the hell did you get into Star Wars?
My parents, my mom and my dad both just really enjoyed it. Not generally sci-fi people, but they just loved it. My mom liked Darth Vader's pants. I mean, it was just, they just really bought into it. As a kid, that's literally, I mean, I don't remember Luke Skywalker not existing because he was such a mainstay in my house,
Sure.
from such a young age that I literally don't remember. The first time I saw Star Wars was Return of the Jedi in the theater, but I had seen the other two before that on HBO, I want to say, at home. Maybe it was Laserdisc, who knows? I mean, but we're talking about the very early 80s here, so it could have been, I mean, who knows? But the point is that by the time I saw it in the theater, I had seen the other two, so I wasn't like, what's going on? But I was also 6. So how much did I really know was going on at the very first time? So, I'm a little bit behind in that regard. But other than that, I'm right there.
How did you feel? Because that's fascinating to me. Because I'm a little older than you. I
Mm-hmm.
saw I saw the original film and its re-release prior to, or I always get it confused. Is it right before or right after Empire came out that they did the
Mm-hmm.
re-release, which was deemed Episode 4 at that juncture? Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I saw it. So when I saw it in the theater, it was Episode 4.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
then I saw
absolutely.
Empire Strikes Back shortly after, or maybe I've got those backwards, so I can't remember. But I can tell you that my sister saw the original one so many times, and she had the soundtrack on vinyl, and it was amazing. And we used to play it, and we
Mm-hmm.
used to have this disco ball, and then there was posters of Leia and Chewbacca and Vader and Han, and like the lights were and the music was blaring, and that whole visual to me, like it was like its own movie, and
Absolutely.
it really was. It's such fond memories. And then
Mm-hmm.
getting into Empire, I can remember the reveal. And we've talked about this before. The best
Mm-hmm.
cinematic reveal, in my opinion, ever, which is Luke, I am your father. So my
Mm-hmm.
question for you, considering you were 6, it was the first time you saw it in the theater. Do you remember how you felt when Vader destroys Palpatine or the Emperor at the time as we knew him, and
Mm-hmm.
and the mask is revealed and there's the feeble old Anakin Skywalker? How did that make you feel seeing that?
That particular scene, that part of Return of the Jedi, which is, by the way, my favorite Star Wars movie, I will not be taking any questions. Um,
Ooh.
just because I'm a Luke girl and I loved seeing him come into his grace. What makes Luke what he is part of what makes Return of the Jedi my favorite movie. It's not to say that the other ones aren't good or any other such thing. It's just if you're going to ask me what my favorite one is, I'm going to tell you it's that one. And that moment or that point in the movie was really cathartic for me because, and we discussed this in our first get together as a group for the trilogies. That I have a deadbeat dad. So for me, the idea that your deadbeat dad would come back and do the right thing finally and then be freed of everything that he's done and all that other stuff really was awesome to me. I thought it was great, but it was also the first time I ever saw Darth Vader as a human being. He was a robot to me before that, plain and simple. I mean, I knew he wasn't. I understood, I mean, I was a kid, but I did understand that he was a person, but he wasn't a real person. He wasn't a nice person. So I didn't care for him greatly. And I didn't, I just didn't see him as human because I hadn't seen anything from him that seemed human to me. But like we talked about before, that's to do with my just the way that I saw the world with from what I went through. You know, and I had a great dad. I had a great stepdad. He was wonderful, blonde hair, blue eyed guy, kind of like Luke Skywalker. Shocking that Luke is one of my favorite characters. And he is very much a Luke Skywalker kind of person, you know, or at least he was. He was a very, you know, good guys win, got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything kind of guy, you know, and that's the kind of thing that he taught me. So he was Luke, and then there was this bad guy who was the father, who was all these terrible things that you had to try to reconcile, and people try to tell you that you have to love them anyway, even though they've done these terrible things. And it was wonderful to see Luke take that in a very different way than perhaps I do. But then again, for me, Luke has always been a character to aspire to. He's not who I identify with. He's who I aspire to. I identify with his father because that's much more me.
I can't wait, and I'm gonna hope I don't regret saying this because I may hijack our show, but I can't wait to discuss. I can't wait to discuss the Last Jedi with you at some point.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah. Anyway, we'll move on. We'll move on from that. Well, that's fabulous. And so you saw Return of the Jedi in the theater, and then
Mhm.
how was your fandom from there on out? Or did you get into extended universe and the comics and the books and et
I read
cetera?
some of the books. I read some of the books. It just depended on whether or not it appealed to me. Truthfully, as a kid, I read a lot, but I was much more into nonfiction, historical fiction, science, and those kinds of things. Not so much in that genre. And I actually didn't start reading Star Wars books until I was probably in junior high. And it was because I was reading Dragonlance at the time. So you just kind of found yourself in that section of the bookstore or the library, and you're like, oh, look, Star Wars book. I'm going to pick this up. The first book I read was Shadows of the Empire, which I know it's not popular, but I love Shadows of the Empire. And for anybody watching who knows me and who's seen me around in my Star Wars fandom, everybody knows that like I'm the Black Sun girl. I have a skyhook on Coruscant. Like that's my place. So that was my entry into books. But I find that for me, I'm more of a movies and then obviously later on the TV shows kind of girl. So that's where most of my fandom comes from. But I'm not like, oh, it was in the comics. That doesn't matter. I'm not one of those people. I'm just like, oh, tell me what the comics say because I haven't read it. you
Yeah,
know?
for
So
sure.
I'm outside, but in a good way. Like I'm welcome. I'm open to the stuff that more people know that I don't. So.
I have a similar path. That's why we're
Hmm.
paired up by design.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, then let's jump ahead then. So you were sort of a surface fan essentially for the books and things, and so was I. I read a handful
Hmm.
here and there. Comics, not
Sure.
really. I was
Hmm.
I was a Batman guy, and the origin of Batman was
X-Men.
was the comic books, whereas with obviously
Hmm.
with Star Wars it was the film. And I think that's probably the distinction that my brain made is that
Sure.
comics
Absolutely.
were an afterthought almost over here, but this is the birth of Batman was over here. And so if I wasn't reading a comic like that, I was reading something that was also nonfiction as well,
Right.
or
Right.
later in life, and Rice novels and things of that nature. But I digress. So let's jump. So Return of the Jedi comes out in 1983,
Hmm.
and we do not get another movie until 1999. And when that movie was released, were you in your? I'm just doing the math because you said you were six. Were you in your 20s at that point, or
Yep.
late? Yeah.
In
Okay.
1999, I was 20. I was 22. Yeah, 22.
22. Okay. So, thoughts?
I think
I
22.
know.
My math's terrible. Like, don't ask me math.
I was about to. Yeah.
What did I think of it? I was thrilled to pieces to have Star Wars. I was lucky enough to go and see the screening of A New Hope, Empire, and Return of the Jedi the weekend before. So it was like, not that I hadn't seen the movies between. I totally did. I own the
This
movies.
the
I've
the,
seen
ni-
them a million
the
times.
1997 special editions. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I saw both because
Yeah.
obviously I was old enough to see them before he even made the special editions.
Sure.
I've seen them 100 million times the old way as well.
But it was
But
still
I got
smart
to
to
see
hype
them
the
again.
prequels, though.
Absolutely. And it
Yeah,
was good for a review because not all people were starheads, like us that are actually going to watch the movies when they're on television or go out to watch them or sit down to watch them.
sure.
Um, but when I saw the Phantom Menace, I was super excited. I thought this is awesome. We're going to bring a whole new generation to like Star Wars. Like I was like totally a little miss positive about it because that's what I saw. I saw y'all. We had to wait all this time and now we're finally going back to this place that we all want to go, and I loved it. I saw it, I believe it was the fourth, this 4 days after it came out, so I didn't see it opening night, but I saw it 4 days later. um I loved it. I did not have the kind of complaints that most people do, but then again, I've learned over the years that I don't watch movies the way that most people do. So I'm not surprised that I wasn't bothered by a lot of the things that bothered other people. But I also understood at that point, I had kind of a good idea of how people get really comfortable with something. And when you get comfortable with something, any change to it can throw you off kilter. I personally don't mind being a little off kilter. Clearly, there are a lot of people that are not okay with it. So I felt alone in liking it because a lot of people that I knew were not impressed, but I think they missed the point. I think they just, I don't know. I guess these people aren't very fun at campfire stories because when somebody else has a stick, they get to tell the story. It's your job to listen, not to
Yeah.
decide if it should go this way or who would or wouldn't do this or any other such thing. So I enjoyed it, but I think George and I have a similar mindset, I think I
Yeah.
just understand where he's coming from, even if I think that he isn't as great at dialogue as we'd like it.
Well, and the topic really here is how did it age? So let's just keep building
From
on
then
this.
to now.
Yeah. So since we got your perspective of how you felt about it and perceived it when it was released, how do you think it's
Mhm.
aged? Because obviously
I think it's
the
aged.
prequels, the prequels have had a rebirth. Now, some people will
Yeah.
say a lot of it is from the Clone Wars and things of the prequel era that enhanced the stories and filled in voids and maybe made us forget about some of the misfires or what have you. Um, Others will just say that just over time, new generations of people just kind of woke up to it. That generation that loved it didn't have a big voice then. They have one now. Ooh, they run the internet
Yeah.
now. Those the prequel
Right.
babies are they rule online fandom right now. They are the narrative behind
Yeah.
online fandom. They are, and they have an axe to
Hmm.
grind, boy. You guys
But I
are
mean, considering how hard a
chastise
lot
my
of
life, my world. I'm gonna. I'm somewhat joking, but
no,
uh,
but it's true, and we
somewhat
were hard
joking.
on them. A lot of us, yeah, somewhat joking. A lot of
Yeah,
us,
yeah,
of this age, we were hard on the prequels, and therefore hard on the people who loved them. And
correct.
so I can understand where some of their reticence to hold hands and sing Kumbaya comes from, because some of us were really rotten to both these movies and to the people who loved them. So,
100%. That was the first time where I saw fandom cross that line of. I mean, Jake Lloyd did not deserve what he went through.
no,
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 no, he did not.
no.
He was just a little
Mm-mm.
boy doing a job.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think too that it's a misunderstanding and a misremembering of history by a lot of fans. You know, like they just misremember. I think you love something so much, it gets better in your mind, and then you think that the next thing is worse, and it's really not.
yeah, no, that's a good way to put it. I hated it when it came out. Like I hated it with the
Hmm.
white hot intensity of a thousand suns, and
Right.
like I hated it. I remember sitting in the theater getting borderline angry, going, did a creature just fart on screen? And are we saying
Right.
doo doo in Star Wars now? And why is it that everybody's speaking like lawyers in one scene and it's very like politically driven and then over here it's just like cartoon kitty stuff. Like it's such a weird juxtaposition of a movie too. It was very jarring to me. Um,
Hmm.
but I really enjoy it now. You know,
Hmm.
I know the stuff I don't like, and it's not, and even the stuff I don't like is not aged as well. Because first of all, it's not a first impression, and there's this whole world that has taken place since then, in cinema, on TV, in books, etc. And so I'm obviously my brain and my soul is used to what I'm about to see. I'm aware of it. But
Right.
I was a prequel defender from the Gen X generation for many years, and I still am. But of course,
Hmm.
these last few years, I've been having to transition and play the role of sequel defender. But hopefully, that runs its course before too long because it's exhausting.
I will remain a sequel defender until the galaxy burns out.
I love the sequels, and I will say the Last Jedi
I
and
love
Rise of
them.
Skywalker work together. They work together.
Hmm.
I'm gonna die on that
It's not
hill.
the story that some people wanted, but that doesn't mean, that doesn't mean anything.
If you, if,
You
if,
are
if, if you could
sick.
remove yourself from the behind the scenes drama, because obviously there was a backlash to The Last Jedi, there's no doubt about it. You can't deny that.
Yeah.
As much as I love that film, there was a backlash to it,
Which was
and
stupid.
which was ridiculous.
Who
But it
said
is,
that? Who
but
said that?
Rise
That wasn't me.
and some choices in Rise of Skywalker were obviously made because of the backlash. It doesn't mean it
Right.
doesn't work though. So, in other words, if you're
Right.
watching those films and you don't know the backstory, you don't know who directs, you're just in the story. I think that
Hmm.
those fans, those casual fans, love those movies,
Hmm.
and I think casual fans love the prequels more than I gave them credit for because. And look, by the time Attack of the Clones rolled around, by the way, just so we're clear, I remember seeing that
Hmm.
going. I felt
Yeah.
vindicated. Like so many things I had issues with the Phantom Menace, and I love Attack of the Clones. Like I don't know what it is about that film. I get the love story is questionable. I
Not if you're 16, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's some execution though, and they roll around and it's very contrived, but it's okay. It's I mean,
I was I was 16 once,
I'm
and I'm telling you,
I'm,
it works great.
I'm nitpicking. I'm nitpicking because I love it.
Absolutely.
These are things
Well,
I
you
didn't
should.
like when it came out. It was when I had more of a quibble then than I do now. But
Sure.
I think the Phantom Menace has aged well. I think in a lot of ways it was ahead of its time. Um,
Hmm.
I still think between Darth Maul and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, we get arguably the coolest, most badassery in a lightsaber duel that we've had on screen. I don't know. Is there one that you prefer over that one? I don't know. It's so
Um,
emotional and
you know,
powerful and visceral, and it's
it's
just awesome.
it's hard for me because I have, obviously I have my Luke fetish, my boots fetish, all which come with him. But I love his straight line style of fighting. I like that emotion that comes from him. But I just think it's different. You know what I mean? It's not better or worse. It's different.
It is different.
When
It did.
I see when I see him move, I know it's Luke Skywalker. I don't have to see his lightsaber. I don't have to see the glove. I know it's him because I know how he moves. Just the same way as I know when it's Obi-Wan, or I know when it's Anakin, or I know because there's a particular type of movement. And for me, as somebody who comes from a background of dancing, the way that Luke Skywalker, literally the way he moves when he fights, particularly when you know that Mark Hamill is a small guy, it just makes it much more powerful. But for me, I mean, there's no question that you're getting the best lightsaber work between Maul and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, in that. But I mean, I think it just depends on what you're in the mood for, because sometimes I really want to see the very stilted old style, and sometimes I want to see the super fast. Oh my god, how did you do that? So it kind of goes both ways.
And that's one of the things I like about the sequels. It's a little bit of a hybrid. In fact,
Hmm.
particularly in Rise of Skywalker, I love that with Rey and Kylo. I love that whole
Oh,
sequence.
them in the Last
It's
Jedi. That's the one that I go back to over and over.
love it. And the thing about the original trilogy versus, let's say, the Phantom Menace is that all of those were also very personal,
Hmm.
whereas this one was less personal, but it still was
Right.
just so the choreography of it, the badassery of it. Obviously,
Hmm.
that's what I love about it, and it was something different.
Hmm.
I think, and obviously in Revenge of the Sith, that one's deeply personal, right?
Very.
And then
Hmm.
and I think Rise of Skywalker, I think that one is particularly also very personal.
Yeah.
Well, so was Last Jedi. Yeah,
But
yeah.
I think they're all
They're all
personal
great,
in a
and for
different
different reasons.
way.
They're all
Yeah,
great for
exactly.
different.
It's a different drink at the bar. You can have all sorts of different drinks with all the tastes
The
going down.
the only one, and I love Attack of the Clones. I just mentioned that. I don't think there's
Mhm.
anything too deeply personal in those in terms of the lightsaber duels. Am I missing something there?
No, I don't think so. I think that that's where the story is at that particular time.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah. I mean,
mean?
it works in the context of the film, but it's not like a personal
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah, and it isn't always. Sometimes, the battle comes before you ever draw your lightsaber.
Yeah. It's
You know
a
what
great
I
way to say
mean?
it. Yeah.
Sometimes that battle has come and gone, and somebody has won and lost before you've even started, and now it becomes we're doing this because we're supposed to. And that's not a criticism. That's just a reality of the world that we live in. That there are certain things that, you decide before you even do the thing. And what happens is really a foregone conclusion. You don't realize it at the time, but when you look back on it, you're like, yeah, that was pretty much locked in before we started.
Yeah.
you know
Sure. That's a
and
great way. That's a great way to put it. It's a great way to put it.
yeah.
Um, well, in the time we have left, because we just have a few minutes here,
Mhm.
this is a great topic. So we both agree that it has aged well.
Absolutely.
I stand by that also.
Agreed.
Question: Well, what is your favorite scene or favorite couple of moments in the Phantom Menace when you think about that movie? What jumps out as some of your favorite stuff?
I think for me, and it could very well just simply be because I love Liam Neeson, but Qui-Gon is definitely my kind of Jedi. And I've heard people talk quite frequently about how he is so much more of a gray Jedi than not. And I think that that's reasonable because he's one of those people that understands the wise words he's supposed to tell you and the rules and the lessons he's trying to teach. But he doesn't just want you to be able to recite them. He wants you to understand what they mean. He wants you to think about them. And I think that anybody who takes direction, takes guidance, takes rules, and thinks about them, understands how they work and how they impact things, is just so much of a deeper, individual. And Lord knows I love Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he does kind of just this is the rule, so this is what we do. Whereas Qui-Gon is like, this is the rule, this is why. And the
Yeah,
why of it for some people is so much more important than just knowing what the rule is. Don't just tell me what to do. Tell me why I'm doing it so that if there's something that's different or I have to change, I can think critically because I understand why I'm doing this. You know what I mean?
sure.
I just feel like he just spouts Jedi wisdom, every 3 seconds during that movie, but that's just the thing. How many times have you seen somebody's profile include, your focus determines your reality?
Yeah,
Because it's true and because it's no different than Bruce Lee saying don't talk badly about yourself even as a joke, your body doesn't know the difference. That is the same statement. It's the same statement getting across the same point of, be deeper than that. Understand that it is deeper than that. And I really loved that about him. So for me, those were the moments, those moments when he just shared his wisdom and shared it in a way that kind of meant, listen to what I'm telling you. And then when you have time later, think about what I'm telling you. Don't just
yeah,
listen to it. Think about it.
love it. You
So
know,
that's me.
I was going to say that all the Jedi Council stuff I love, and I think
Yeah, that was
a
cool
lot
to see.
it's just very cool to see. I think a lot of that was driven by him, and
Yeah.
to your larger point. Okay, well,
Hmm.
cool. Well, this was a fun 101.
It was great.
But yeah, this is. I think we're off to a good start with this show. I love that we're doing this.
I think it's going to be fantastic. I think it's
Uh,
going to be great. I think we're going to have great conversations, and I'm excited to have those different viewpoints. I think it's so good.
I was at the mall yesterday, just dropped off my daughter and her friend, and they were walking around for 2 hours. And I worked out of a coffee shop at Barnes and Noble for a while, poked around Barnes and Noble, did that for about an hour and a half, had about 30 minutes to kill. Really too much information, but I don't care. I told it anyway. So I went wandering around. On the third floor of this movie theater this mall that we're at, Stonebriar Mall in Frisco, Texas, I there's an AMC. So I just wandered up there. I just wanted to
Hmm.
smell the popcorn and I wanted to look at movie posters, right?
Hmm.
There was a huge display for Mandalorian. And I went and got some selfies and I took a little video and I texted some friends. And yes, and I am just so stoked that we're about to get a Star Wars movie in the theater. And I'm so stoked that
Hmm.
we have so much content coming our way for us to discuss. Not just the stuff we already
Absolutely.
have that's in our hearts and minds and souls from since we were little. I'm talking about new stuff coming. It's
Absolutely.
just remarkable. So looking forward to the journey with you, my friend.
And you. We're going to have a great time.